Here at the National with Collect TV, and joining me now is RR Auctions Executive Vice President Bobby Livingston. Bobby, great to see you.
Darren, it's always a blast.
Why are you
to be
laughing?
around. Because you're just a blast to be around. You- You're one of the most passionate
Oh,
collectors and clients we have. So
thank you.
it's always a joy. And when I see you bidding, I know something's cool in there that nobody else has
I
noticed.
know. I try not to bid too early, just because I don't want you to know that on the back end I'm bidding on it. But listen, RR over the past 5 years has really exploded. I think just the idea of things that normally were in book sales, documents, then being able to get it slabbed has brought the market over from the old book crowd to the younger card market. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think encapsulation and really helps transfer into a newer demographic, ones that are used to baseball cards and they can hold something, they know it's authentic. It's not so much the tactile experience of holding the paper and looking at the paper. So there is a new generation of buyers. But we've been doing this since 1976 and have been selling, documents from George Washington to Einstein all this time. So it's
Yeah, but the
great.
crazy thing to me,
Yeah.
especially when I went to the New York Book Fair and the average age was like 73. Okay, I mean, it smelled like death in there. Is that there is this major disconnect, especially with documents, where you have a generation that says, trust us, it's good. You know me, I'm Sam. I've always been in this business. To no one in the card business without it being slabbed would ever, they'd be crazy to say that's a John Hancock from whatever 1737, a young. So there is that disconnect, and I think that's been profitable for you guys too, because you guys know what's good and you've been able to cross it over.
Absolutely. So because we've been in business so long, we've touched more paper than maybe some of these authentication companies. I mean, we've seen more George Washingtons than anybody. Not anybody, but you know what I'm saying. So sometimes when you have
Not
an
not as
authenticator,
much as Martha, but yeah.
look, I think authentication third party is extremely important, has transformed our business. But I do also think that a 72-year-old that's touched more Button Gwinnetts, for
Right.
instance, than these guys have,
Right.
then I would rather try.
That's where the confidence comes from. Yes.
Right. I mean, you know what I mean? Because if a 27-year-old, there's about 62 known Button Gwinnetts, right? And 50 of them are institutions. You can only get one or two or
And
three
this
of them.
guy, by the way, he's a Declaration of Independence, the rarest signer that you can get. Yeah.
That's correct. So, if someone walks in here with a Button Gwinnett and shows it to, a 27-year-old authenticator that's never even touched the paper or seen
Right.
a real Button
Okay,
Gwinnett,
that's fair.
I would much rather go to the New York Book Fair where it doesn't smell like death, Darren.
Right.
It smells like money in there. And that's what's going on.
Okay, that's awesome. And thank you for defending the book, people. Okay, let's talk about Steve Jobs.
Yes.
So up until maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, Steve Jobs, a couple would appear a year. Obviously, he didn't overtly sign, hated signing. There's that letter that he signed that says "I don't sign," which is one of the greatest. But you went into the basements of Silicon Valley and unearthed, like an archaeologist, a bunch of Steve Jobs, and the checks are remarkable. The dates are exactly where you want, from the garage, just as they're founding the company, with it written out to substantive things that you can figure out, like answering services and computer parts. What has it been like to kind of be the main auction house of the emergence of Steve Jobs?
It's been really thrilling because the segment is just blowing up. And, the Steve Jobs, we sold that letter, the one where he says he doesn't sign autographs. And the guy I
What
got
did
it
that
from,
go from for?
I think
500 grand? No,
almost
300.
300,000.
Yeah.
And it was one of these guys that wrote out to people, had a mailing list. And, just for a self-addressed
Stamp. But yeah,
stamped
yeah.
envelope, he sent it to Steve Jobs. And for whatever reason, on that day, he never did this, but he wrote out, "Sorry, thanks for writing me, but I don't sign autographs."
Steve Jobs was in a good mood. Maybe that was the one day.
The one day.
Yeah.
So, for the 25 cents this guy did, 40 years later, we changed his life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
and
amazing.
so it's an amazing thing. But once the desirability of authentic Steve Jobs autographs were out there, suddenly people that knew him start to contact us, or people that worked for Apple start to contact us, and I have this and that. And so there was very few authentic examples, and the third party authenticators didn't have a lot of exemplars. So once we got the checks and started to get the contracts, well, you know, they're
It was
much better.
rolling in.
Yeah, yeah, and it's thrilling. And there's people that are so emotionally connected to Steve Jobs and everything that he accomplished that the prices are magnificent. Even we sold that manual, the
Jim
Go Change,
Irsay, Go
the
Change the World.
Go Change the World uh, autograph that he wrote out to an 11-year-old in 1980. Said, "You're the first generation to grow up with computers. Go
Do you
change
remember
the
his
world."
name?
Julian, yeah,
Julian, yes.
yeah, and
Mike Markula,
yeah, he
right?
signed it too. You know the names, but when that goes for $770,000, it just shows you the influence that
Yep,
Apple had and
it's
Jobs had
amazing.
on people. So it's growing, and it's been great to be all a part of that.
Couple more questions. Tell me about what you're seeing on the back end. The bidders, more international and younger.
It's we're getting people with disposable income in their 40s and 50s. Couple people younger, but it's mostly, because we're selling documents, one of a kind items that are a little sophisticated. It takes a certain
Yes, yes.
level of buyer. So it's still the 72-year-olds.
I'm not 72, and I am bidding on an RR auction every single time. Uh, it seems like presidents are hot, and certainly founding fathers coming up on the 250th anniversary of America in 2026. Some of the leaps in these things. You used to be able to buy a Lincoln for 6,000 5 years ago, and now good luck. Anything under 12 is great. Washington, you can't get it for under 16. What about the growth in those guys?
Well, it's great. Again, it's, content and condition is everything. You have an eye from when you see a bold signature. Those are
Right.
going to go for a lot of money. But it's, these are blue chip names, and naturally, as money flows into the documents, that's what you should be buying. And it was crazy. You could get a Lincoln military commission, beautiful, for $3,000, $5,000 just a couple years ago. Now they're
Yeah, because people would say, "Oh, they're common." He wrote it to he dismissed every soldier and signed the autograph. But it's like they're drying up.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right. Even we had Lincoln checks. There was a lot of those originally, and they're
now they're
great.
35,000, 40,000. It's
I know,
incredible.
but when he left Springfield and went to Washington, never went home. So there was an incredible amount of checks that were
Right.
in his house when they returned, and
Plus, he had early lawyer stuff. I mean,
right,
is it between that and say like a Paul Revere, who was just a silversmith and
right,
good luck wasn't even a dignitary.
right, right.
What's your favorite autograph or piece of all time that you've ever got consigned?
Well, my favorite, of course, is the Albert Einstein picture with his tongue sticking out. It had a huge inscription on it in German. We didn't know what it said, but it just shows you how Einstein knew his public image and knew what was going on in the world, because that picture was taken quite by mistake on his birthday. The press said, "Professor Einstein, give us a smile," and he goes, sticks his tongue out. One photographer gets it, runs in the paper. Einstein writes to the photographer and asks him for a print. So we had the print that was Einstein's own,
Ah,
and he made it out to a journalist. And he wrote to the journalist. He said, "This gesture is aimed at all humanity, Albert Einstein." So that's my favorite autograph of all time.
well, I don't like when you mention Albert Einstein because I had my worst loss in auction history, not being able to get the ticket from his theory of relativity speech at Princeton in your auction. I think it went. I don't know. I'm still upset about it.
Well, don't be too upset, Darren,
There's another
because
one.
there's another one coming in rarities, unencapsulated. I'm trying to convince the consigner to pay for encapsulation, but you're going to have a second chance. So E equals Darren twice.
Wow,
DR.
I might not be spending my money at the national knowing that. I'm gonna have to save up.
Yes, you should.
Holy moly. Last question, type 1. What do you think of type 1 photos? We're out here on the floor and we see people aren't there's such a wide range of type 1 photos, whether it's like, and it's not based on how great the picture is. It's like based on, and sometimes there are snapshots that are one of ones from citizens versus a type 1 of Iwo Jima. Where are you on type 1 photos?
I think the market's got a long way to mature. I mean, I can understand it when a photograph that was used for a famous baseball card, type one, goes for a lot of money, or early Babe Ruth. Okay, that makes sense. But when you start seeing Marilyn Monroe common 8 by 10 photos that are,
Right.
There's hundreds of them, different poses going for tens of thousands
And
of
you
dollars.
have
I
no
think
population report. You have
none.
no idea how many papers have these
Right,
things.
right, and
Yeah.
you could buy those for $5 at every national
Right.
for the
Right. Up until National 41 or 2. Yeah. Yeah.
so they're very common. And they're cool, but they're not in my. We got a long way to go before they're thousands of dollars instead of $100. So
Bobby Livingston, the executive vice president of RR. You're a great friend, a great auctioneer,
yeah,
and maybe we could do a private sale on the Einstein. So
not gonna
please don't
happen.
post
Not
it.
gonna happen.